We have indeed been successful, everybody. We're sitting quite close to her and hoping that she'll turn around and face us. There, of course, is Kurhula and one of the cubs. I'm just trying to find behind us or somewhere around here where the carcass is, because we came in from that side. We didn't see the carcass. And I'm sure the carcass and the other cub are in close proximity to each other and not too far from where we are now. Ah, I've got it. I can see it. Brian, you see that fallen log there? The fallen marula tree, fairly large fallen marula tree there. It's just underneath that. I can't see a leopard there yet, but I'm pretty sure that's where the other one will be. We will take a closer look there shortly. That's it. You may just be able to see a few extra flies flying around there. There, it's under there, yeah. Right, good. Oh, hello. Look at this, everybody. Now, what we do not want to happen is for Karula to get cross with us because her cub is here. That was quite extraordinary. Wasn't that awesome? Now, we do know, I'm going to talk very, very quietly. We do know that Kurhula is tolerant to a point, but she can get very irritated. And what we absolutely don't want to happen is to irritate her here. And her cub is being just a little bit inquisitive. I've got no idea where it is right now. It's just around the left to the front, I think. I'm going to ask Brian to sit very still, and we'll keep the camera on the queen because she's turned around to look at us because this is where her baby has come. Hello, madam. I do apologize that we've arrested the attentions of your youngster. We don't mean to do that at all. She looks pretty relaxed, so we will sit here very relaxed. And I will talk in soothing tones. Brian, do I sound soothing?
Very soothing.
Good. Brian says I sound very soothing, which is excellent. All right, I can hear the little cub. Here comes the little cub again. Malik, while we wait to figure, the cub is now just in front of us there. There she goes. Malik, while the cub extracts itself. You know what, I got such a fright I didn't even see who it was. Oh, it's a little Hosanna. It's a little male, everybody. It's Hosanna. Malik, you want to know what the biggest prey I've seen one of these cats take down is? I've seen Karula and Tingana actually on a young buffalo kill. Now, that's very unusual. I suspect they probably both took the time out to kill the small buffalo. It was probably, I'm going to say, about a 200-kilogram animal, so about 500 pounds, 440 pounds, pretty big animal, and I suspect it would have taken both of them to take it down. There are records. Right, just over there. I just wonder if the other cub isn't perhaps not at the carcass, but perhaps down there. You see, there she goes. Now you see they're going to start wandering more widely as they get this a little bit older. So, Malik, there are records, of course, of a big male leopard taking down a giraffe, but that's extremely unusual. Look how they melt into the bush. Isn't that great? Anyway, Mum is still here, completely calm and fine. James, you say I need to put the leaves back on my head. I'm not going to do that because one cannot be in the presence of royalty with Combretum calinum strapped to one's head. That is just very non-you. My mother would be scandalized if I was to meet the Queen with a tree strapped to my head. Wouldn't yours, Brian? Brian is agreeing thoroughly, I'm afraid, James. We might put it on again before the end of the drive, but not just yet. Well, this is just a marvellous, marvellous way to start the afternoon. We'll go and take a little look at the carcass shortly I just want to wait and see what that cub does. That's little Hosana, the male. Where Shongile is, normally if one is with mum and there's a kill, the other one is feeding. They don't often feed a great deal together. I also parked straight under this tree that Kurhula's sitting under right now, and I thought maybe there was a little one in the tree, but there isn't. Now, it is, of course, a very thick bush here. I think I can turn my phone off now because I have got Louise's communications perfectly. Louise, do not say naughty. It was the only way I was able to talk to you. Dare you say I was naughty? Right, I'm going to take a picture, Brian. I'm going to take a picture of this leopard. It will be a beauty, because she's so close, not even I could make a mess of this.
Well.
Did you hear that, everybody? Brian is casting aspersions on my photographic skills. How dare he? What a cheek. I am, of course, the world's slowest photographer. If I was quicker, perhaps the speed of BLS, I would have got off about 78 photographs of the cub, not more than 2 feet from us. But I do not have the same speed as BLS, either on foot or with the camera. Pains me to say the former, not so much the latter. Now, Gail, you've asked an interesting question all the way from Rhode Island, where I imagine it's getting fairly chillsome at this time of the year. You've said leopards seem to have small ears, and therefore, do they actually, do they hear very well, or do they use their noses and eyes more? Gail, I think you'll find they hear exceptionally well. Why would they have small ears? That's a good question. Why would their ears be smaller than, say, a steenbok's? They're obviously not using their ears for defense, so, they do to a certain extent, but perhaps their ears are the size they are because they do rely more on their smell and sight, whereas a steenbok, for example, or a kudu, which have enormous ears, they obviously spend their entire defensive makeup is made up of trying to hear things coming towards them, certainly in the case of the steenbok. But it's interesting because they do have excellent ears, as do house cats. We know that house cats can hear just about anything, and I'm sure it's the same for these leopards. But I've never thought, why on earth should they have such small ears? Maybe it's got to do with the fact that they don't behave in the same way as the satellite dish ears of a steenbok. So if a steenbok turns its ears around like this, they behave a little bit like a satellite dish. They pick up sound from a certain direction. So perhaps they're not that as efficient as picking up sound from a certain direction. Perhaps they're better at picking an all-round direction. And so they sacrifice perhaps exactly the kinds of sounds that they're hearing. I'm guessing wildly here. Anybody wish to correct me, please feel free. I'd quite like that. Judy H., perhaps you have an idea. Now, we'll move in the next few minutes and just see what's going on with the carcass. And then we'll try and find the other cub. But it is so very nice sitting here in the shade, isn't it, Brian? We don't want to overheat Brian, everybody.
No, not again.
Liam has gone on leave, which means that if Brian overheats again, we'll be down to one feed or me on camera, neither of which you want, I assure you. Louise, you can't go on camera because we need 2 people in the directing seat. Louise is volunteering her camera duty, so is Connor. Connor, I think, has operated a cell phone camera before. I'm not sure he's operated anything more than that. Connor smiled and says it's easy. Well, I think we might take Connor up on that, don't you, everybody? Show him how easy it is What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, piece of cake.
Piece of cake, eh? If you're wondering who Connor is, everybody, he's our engineer and drone pilot. He's just qualified as a drone pilot, everyone. I didn't realise you had to qualify as a drone pilot until Connor went to Cape Town. And now he is a official drone pilot. Right, let's go and have a look at the kill, I think. Hack, I'm afraid I missed your question. Let's have it again from Louise. I think you asked what eats these animals if they die. Is that correct? Oh, I see. Would they scavenge? Would they eat animals that have died naturally? Yes, they would. But I think you'll find that they're quite careful of animals that have died of disease, and I think they're actually quite good at telling if an animal has died of a disease, as opposed to if it's died of, say it's been killed by another animal and then left. But they will scavenge, so they will steal kills from other animals, absolutely. But some animals that have died of disease obviously do not present a particularly good meal. Right, now if the little cub is underneath the tree with the carcass, it means we've driven straight past her. But I wonder if her brother hasn't gone to lie down with her. Here's the kill. And I don't see no leopard there, do you, Brian? So that is a fully grown impala. And unfortunately, I suspect, quite strongly, yeah, that's a fetus. You see that, Brian? Yeah, there's a young impala, I'm afraid, that has come out of that one. Alrighty, that's a fairly macabre scene. It's not uncommon for this time of the year. In fact, Lex Hess was telling me they did see some wild dogs killing an impala earlier today. And they pulled the fetus out of a heavily pregnant impala lamb, a ewe like this. And it's not uncommon, of course, because they are very heavily pregnant. And that means that they're not very good at getting away from things. So it's quite sad, a bit macabre, not so much for the leopards. Let's head across to Taylor. She's at Buffelshoek Dam. I'm going to try and find the other cub. Right, well, Kurhula's doing fine. Her cubs are just over there, which we'll take you to now. I just wanted to show you this giant hole in the ground.
Because they looks like no blood on them.
Look at that.
They might have fed a little bit, but they would...
That is the hole of an aardvark, everybody. The aardvark, ant bear, and this is a warren where it obviously had a home. Now, we are going to go through over the top between two warrens to try and get a better view of the cubs. It's entirely possible that I will lose the front of the vehicle into a hole, in which case Taylor will have to handle the rest of the day. So far, so good, Brian. Sure. Kurhula is off to the right-hand side there. The cubs are now probably about 50 or 60 meters from her. Oh, look at them. They're too cute now. Brian, say when you've got a decent view. Okay. Look at that. Isn't that sweet? Marvellous. Can't believe our luck. That's so cool to see. Isn't that gorgeous? Louise, I do have you, yes. Do excuse the pinging, everybody. That's just my Louise being able to talk to me. So sweet. We shall obviously miss these two cats terribly when they go independent. And in the case of Hosanna, the male, that will probably not be for some time. We might even have him for more than a year. But in the case of Shongile, it could be any time from now. Now would be very early, but it could be any time from now. It's difficult to think of these little things being independent and able to look after themselves. They are so fat and full of impala. They are also so tired after all of the eating and all of the heat that they've had to deal with today. Very hot indeed. Now, while we wait for them to do, well, not a great deal at all, it is beholden on me to tell you that the Nkuhuma Pride, slayers of buffalo that they are, have indeed slayed another buffalo, and that happened sometime during this morning. So they've done very well. I'm not sure if they're eating it. I'm not sure what's going on there, but Taylor will pop in when it gets a bit cooler. Now, Afra, one of the only reasons we know that we do get aardvark in this area, well, there are three reasons. The first is that we drive into their holes fairly regularly. The second is that they leave their tracks on the road, and Steph certainly, when he's out on bushwalk, quite often finds them. The third is that Tingana, and this will semi-answer your second question, Tingana has been seen with, I think, 3 or 4 aardvark, if I'm not mistaken, dragged into trees where he eats them. I think Kurhula would be probably, I mean, she could kill an aardvark, but I think she'd probably prefer to take something slightly less robust, if you like. She'd definitely take a young one, but she doesn't seem to specialize in them, but she could kill one. But Tingana, big male leopard, he made something of a speciality for a little while, killing aardvark. And the reason I say aardvark and not aardvark is that aardvark sounds wrong to me, and aardvark is very satisfying to say. Give it a go, Brian.
Aardvark.
You see, aardvark, it's really quite it rolls off the tongue. There is a very pleasant breeze blowing now, so it's not as hot as it might be. You're right there, Brian.
I'm okay. For now.
Yes, we might have to get Brian into the shade fairly soon. In the background, the lovely call, 2 lovely calls. One, the liquid call of the black-headed oriole going loot-loop, 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 loot-loop. Doesn't actually sound like that at all, but something like that. And then also the black-crowned chagra. It's a bit of a mournful call, but it's very beautiful. Now, everybody, I know that the sky is blue today. In fact, it's white. It's been so burnt out by the sun. You can hear my throat is scratchy from the dryness. But tomorrow, apparently there's going to be rain. You don't believe the weather forecast, do you, Brian?
Well, one can never believe the weatherman out here.
The weatherman talks foul and contemptible untruths to us on a regular basis. He promises us rain, and we sit and sweat, hoping for water and moisture to wet our tongues, that we can just wet our lips slightly and feel the life-giving force of water. That's enough of that, probably. Let's go back to the leopards. Sorry, everyone, I don't know where that came from. I was suddenly feeling quite theatrical. Quite off my head. Okay, good. Well, there the leopards are. I'm afraid they're not going to do a great deal for the next little while, but one of them will eventually get up and decide to go and have something to eat. Either that or they'll decide to go and say hello to Mother. Hello, sleep. You say Happy Halloween, and what is the spookiest moment I've ever had on drive? Oh. I shiver when I think of it. I go pale and quake in my boots. I think the spookiest moment I've ever had on drive was when Nat.Geo Smith leapt out of a bush at me while I was driving along, and I then said, I can't say what I said, it was a very bad word, but that was a very spooky time. I must confess I haven't had a hugely spooky time of it out here. I think it's the night time in the bush is quite spooky. I'm just quickly going to talk on the Game Drive channel. I think Herbie might be trying to get in here. Last station, who are you calling?
Looking for you, madam. I'm interested in joining your sighting.
It's Herbert. I think he's driving tonight.
Impala play.
Herbie, from the junction of Balanites and Impala Road, we're about... In fact, the best route to come in, Herb, you know that big scotia tree or the weeping boerbean on the termite mound there? If you go to that point, I'll get you audio, and you just head northeast from there by about east, not far.
Okay, copy play.
Look at the little things panting away. And out here, it really is a story of triumph and tragedy so often. That's why it makes such compelling viewing. It's why it makes such compelling storytelling out here. Here we have Kurhula, possibly the most successful leopard I've ever met. Her 10th babies lying there in complete peace. Now, she's watching them, make no mistake of it. When we approached them, I made sure that I didn't break her line of sight with them. Whether that would have made a difference to her or not, I don't know. But and then you have Shadow, who is now seemingly pushed out of her old territory. The Ingradan female's been in her territory. We've seen Karula in her territory. We've seen Salayeshe even from the north of Simbambili pushing down into her territory. She hasn't raised one cub to sort of maturity yet. Now, she has semi-raised one, which was Sindile, but I suspect quite strongly that he would have died had we not removed him from here on account of his rabies outbreak, or rabies, potential rabies infection. And then you have Tundi, who has been marginally successful, but nothing like her mother, and she's just lost a cub to the lions. And I think it sometimes seems, although we were given a harsh reminder the other day when we watched the baboons chasing little Hosana up a tree and trying to pull him out of the tree, sometimes might seem as though it's, it's fairly idyllic. It's fairly easy to raise cubs out here. I suppose some of the time it is, but a great deal of the time, there's a small chance always that something's going to happen, and it's the prepared people and leopards out here that make it through those times. They're constantly aware. They never let their guard down, and I think Karula's one of those, and I think that's why she's managed to raise these cubs the way she has. Yeah, Doodles, you are sharing the thoughts of many when you say you hope that when Shongile goes independent, she will take a territory quite close to her mother's. She will almost certainly do that, but you also say that you hope that she'll stay within our traverse area. The thing is, Doodles, if I may call you by your first name, Doodles, the thing is, leopardess's territory in this particular area is around about 15 square kilometers, which is about 1,500 hectares, which is bigger than the land we're on now, which means that although she might set up, I suppose she could set up in Arathusa, and then we could have them right next to each other, but she won't do it on Djuma. There's no way that both of their territories will be on Djuma completely. There might be little pieces of them onto Djuma, but they won't both be onto Djuma. Right, I think we're going to move slightly just to put a little bit of shade over Brian's head. And while we do that, let's head across to Taylor and get an update from her. She can tell you a little bit about her lion experience earlier on today. And we're live. Hello, everybody. Unlike the buffalo you've just been watching, we are live. I am astounded at Taylor's ability to see buffalo being killed live. 3 in less than, 2 weeks or so? I think that's pretty impressive, really. Anyway, quite a harrowing experience, I imagine, for many of you, so I apologize if it was harrowing to any of you, but of course it wasn't nearly as harrowing for you as it was for the buffalo, which is now no longer with us. Kurhula has moved very slightly. She came up here, she called one of the cubs who's gone off to have something to eat, and we'll head towards there. I've just got to be very careful right now because we're in amongst a great warren, like I said, of aardvark holes, and we don't want to fall into one of them. And I just want to wait and see if the other one doesn't come across here. And I can just see the white belly of, I think it's Hosanna, still under the shade there. And he doesn't seem to be making any move to come towards the kill. So what we'll do is give him another 1 minute exactly, and then we'll head down towards the kill site and watch the youngster feeding. There we are. No, he's not going anywhere, is he, Brian? No. Very tired indeed. And of course it is very tiring being a leopard out here. No sugar to eat at all, and so you must metabolize fat, which is just takes a little bit more out of you. I think we're going to try and go around this way. Hold on, everyone. What an amazing day we're having. These magnificent leopards and those lions killing not 1 but 2 buffalo in 1 day. Now, what is also amazing to me is that the buffalo that was just recently met its end must have heard the other one being killed right around there earlier today. Must have, because I'm pretty sorry about that, Brian. I'm pretty sure that it came from that herd that we saw, that Veerman and I saw early this morning, sitting around about Central Road, quite sort of approaching Djuma Dam. And why they were so gormless as to come anywhere near those lions when the lions have been there for, well, in and around that area for months now. The buffalo seems to be slow of brain. Right, Louise, I have you again. Hello, James. You're asking about Kurhula's new name and whether the new spelling has an aspirated H in it. I must reiterate here, Kurhula's name has not changed. We've kept her name the same. Is she at the kill, Brian, or can you? She's on the termite mound. Gosh, that's magnificent. Her name will remain the same, Karula, because that's what she's been called. And the whole point of our little video was just to say, look, Kurhula, K-A-R-U-L-A, is not a Shangaan word meaning peaceful, and we don't want to antagonize anybody who's been calling her Kurhula for a long time. That's absolutely fine. But out of deference to the Shangaan people of this area, we felt it important just to correct the fact that Karula, K-A-R-U-L-A, does not mean peaceful. Anyway, if you were to pronounce the word Kurhula, it's a very subtle, which is spelled K-U-R, Kuru, K-U-R-H-U-L-A, Kurhula. And the H is almost completely silent. It's very slightly aspirated, which means you put a little bit of a at the end of the R. Now, if you're a Shangaan or Xitsonga speaker, you'll be able to hear the difference between the two. I cannot hear the difference between, if you were to write that word with an R or without an R, I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference. But it is slightly aspirated, so it would be Kurhula. Kurhula. It's almost Kurhula, but a very soft sort of version of Kurhula. If that makes sense, James. So to reiterate, we have not renamed the leopard because everybody calls her Karula. But it is just to remind, in deference to the beautiful language that is Xitsonga, that does not mean, it does not mean peaceful. And I know that's caused a little bit of consternation for some, but it really wasn't intended to in the slightest. It's just very important that we show due deference. Oh, look at the flies. Look at that. Thousands of those nasty sort of red-eyed and blue-bottled flies. Yuck. And that, I'm afraid, is the little fetus being eaten there. Well, that's the stomach that she's having a go at. I suspect the rest of them will come up here fairly soon. Brian, I'm going to shift you slightly forward because I think you'll get a ever so slightly better view if I move a meter or so. What do you think? Yeah? There we go. I've said she, I think that's Shongile. Yeah, it is. Is it? There's the beauty spot there. I must confess it doesn't look very appetizing to me, does it? Not at all. Now, Kurhula, one of the reasons she's been so successful, of course, is because she so cleverly hides these kills. There's no ways any vulture's going to see that. If a vulture doesn't see it until it starts to rot, there's no lion or hyena that will find it. She's bringing the fetus out here. This is just amazing stuff. We're parked really, well, what's that, Brian, about 8 meters and 10 meters maybe from her. That's 30 feet or so. Not a care in the world she has around us. And as the sun starts to set, we will try and get to the other side. And just to reiterate, we have called this in many times, and there are seem to be no game drive vehicles coming this way, and that's on account of the fact that there is a there's that astounding sighting going on at Buffels, at least at the Djuma Dam. Well, this is highly satisfying, isn't it, Brian? What a nice gentle wind blowing nicely. Jen B, what a very, very macabre joke you've made there, but it is Halloween, so we'll let it go. You say you don't suppose that we can count this C-section of the impala lamb as the first impala lamb. Jen B, no, you may not. Absolutely not. Very, very macabre. Okay, I'm going to move again. We've got some space around here, so I think... Oh, let's just see if she doesn't take it somewhere more visible.
James, come in.
I'm just going to answer Lex. Go, Lex. Go ahead, Lex.
James, how many vehicles are with you?
I am alone.
Why don't you come in there? That's okay with you?
It's absolutely fine.
Thanks, James.
Gorgeous stuff. Lex is going to come through.
Good afternoon, mobile station. Any update?
Using the carnassial teeth, which of course most of you have heard about, those molars at the back of the jaw that help them to slice the meat off. We don't often see them using them, of course. And the tongue cleaning off bits that she doesn't want to eat. Hair. Right, I'm going to try and get a slightly better position at the sighting, everyone. While we do that, let's head back across to the lions and see if they're actually bothering to eat this buffalo or just leaving it. Karula and her cubs have been burnt by the sun, everybody. They've disappeared in an astounding Halloween phenomena called the leopard-eating sun. Wasn't it terrifying, Brian?
It was horrifying.
Horrifying. I am, of course, talking nonsense. Kurhula is behind little Shongile, and behind her is Hosana, lazing about in the shade. Who could blame him? She is still eating the fetus of the hapless impala that was killed by the Queen earlier today. She was, of course, sharing her kill with a number of very foul-looking flies, whose names I have forgotten. I'm going to find them for you while you look at it, because, of course, far more fascinating than the leopards are the flies that are sitting on the impala. I might just have to, you may have to excuse me on the Game Draft channel briefly, because there are a few people trying to come into the sighting now, and we might have to leave. We don't have to leave just yet. Just quickly, hold on 1 second. I've lost the radio, Brian. Abel, come in. Stand by there. Stand by. Abel, there's one here, but behind is the female. She's just to the south of the big marula tree there, and then the other male cub the other side there, if you want. Otherwise, this is good. Oh, he's having a wonderful sighting. What is she doing? Let's move back a little bit, and then we'll talk about the flies, because I know you're all desperate to know about them. Just going to let Lex move first. We will move. Isn't that amazing? That's so cool. She's taking it back to Mum, I think. And I guess it feels just like her own little kill. That is so cool. She's behaving just like an adult leopard. It'd be interesting to see if little Hosana would do exactly the same thing. I'm going to move back with her, Brian. I'll try and do it as smoothly as possible. Well done, Brian. Brian is doing a sterling job, everybody. He's contorted himself into an astounding position. I think she's going to try and hoist it into the tree there. I doubt it. He's taking, I can see Mum. I'm just going to let Lex get through here, and then we'll go. She's actually taking it back to Hosana. This is fascinating. Well, she's taking it back towards him. I'm actually going to turn around. Sorry, everybody. Hold on, everyone. I just want to see if she doesn't take it straight back to Hosana and they don't share it. But to do that, I need to get through here. Louise, if you are trying to get hold of me, this is where the communications went dodgy last time, so I think you might need to use the phone. Yeah, no, that's hopeless. I can hardly hear you. No, she hasn't put it down near Mum. She's put it down over there. There are lots of sticks here. You're right there, Brian. Oh, good. Oh, we're going to get a great view over here. Yes, that was quite well judged on our part, wasn't it, Brian? They are completely unsighted, everyone else. We have got a perfect view. Okay, I've got you now, Lou. Hello, William Distracted, I think that's your name. You say, do I agree with your supposition that the size of the ears is related to the length of the whiskers and their position on the head? I couldn't begin to tell you if I agree with that or not. I've never even considered it vaguely. William, I don't suppose it's impossible. I'm just not sure why it would be like that. So if you could expand on your theory, I'd be fascinated to hear about it. Isn't this amazing? Those flies have followed her, you know. Nasty things.
Okay.
Now, I will try and find out what they are again. I had such a nice picture lined up there, Brian. Unfortunately, because I'm the world's very slowest photographer, I missed it, and all I got was a blur of spots. Okay, let me find this fly. Disgusting blighters that they are. You know, you look through the bees and the wasps, and they are all very attractive. I think they've got nice colours. They seem to be quite productive about life. And then you get to the flies, and they give you malaria and diphtheria and various other fairly disgusting things. Right, I think what we're looking at there... Give me a few seconds, wait, I've got one candidate. Ah, yes, that's what it is. The regal blowfly. Probably a mixture between the regal blowfly and the banded blowfly. And you know, as we've always said to you, the safari is not just about the great predators, the horns and the teeth and the claws. There we have the regal blowfly, a spectacular example of African wildlife, wouldn't you say, Brian?
It's splendid.
It's splendid. Regal blowfly on the royal family of leopards. Wonderful.
Marvellous.
Marvellous, especially on Halloween. Stunning. Only, of course, possible with a royal leopard. You would never find a fly that magnificent on a humble lion, for example. I hope you know that I'm being completely ridiculous, everybody. Oh, and in the background, the lovely call of the Diedrich's cuckoo. And just a little wind coming up as the sun begins its inexorable route down towards the western horizon. And I think there will be a bit of wind later tonight. And there apparently is going to be some rain tomorrow. Brian and I think that that's a foul, contemptible lie. Right, we may have to move out, everybody, because Ephraim is trying to come here. No, he's not. He's going to have a drink. I don't mean he's going to have a drink. I mean he and his guests are going to have a drink. I've just heard that on the radio. Well, this is so special, everyone. I mean, and I know it has been kind of trumped by the unbelievable sighting of... you know, when buffalo see Taylor now, they must want to run a mile, because every time she looks at one, it gets nailed by a lion. what I wanted to say was that she's been slightly overshadowed, these leopards have, by the fact that we've had a lion kill. But to see the little leopard like that, sort of learning to be an adult, moving her kill, very special. Oh dear. Rocky Knight, you say, how do flies find the kill? And I don't know that I know the answer to that, Rocky Knight. You say, is it smell? Well, it's certainly not sight, and it's certainly not hearing, so it must be some form of smell. I guess in the same way that a mosquito, which is also a fly, finds us by sensing our carbon dioxide. I wouldn't say it's smelling it, but perhaps what they do is they sense the carrion in the air. Yeah, I wouldn't know exactly how they find the kills. It's a very good question. But they are very competent at doing it. And you can see she's being kind of protective over the kill. She's not happy with the flies there. And of course that translates into her adult behaviour of defending a kill. Right, Mum's up there, Brian. She's moving towards the carcass. And I can still see Hosanna. And he is just lurking, doing nothing. Oh, she's wonderful. Isn't she great? That's a spectacular shot. You just move that branch there, Brian. She'll probably go and have a bit of a meal, and I suspect eventually she will find it within herself to pick the carcass up. Oh no, she's not. Brian, give her some privacy, come on. Disgusting. There we are. Louise, testing 1, 2. Yeah, I think we've lost the final control again, I'm afraid. Yes, we see I'm on phone if you need me. Just amazing, and equally amazing, thank you to the lions, of course, because they have savaged that buffalo. Because they've savaged that buffalo, we've had these leopards all to ourselves. Now just remember, I know I've said this a lot, but there does seem to be some confusion quite often, and I know you don't all always watch the show. We change times tomorrow, 5 to 8, so it's half an hour earlier in the morning, and then in the afternoon we'll be half an hour later. It'll be 4 to 7. Now, Mum has definitely moved off towards the kill. She's finished her afternoon toilet, as it were. And we'll see if she doesn't bring it this way. Perhaps put it in the tree eventually. But I think we'll stay right here for now. This is a wonderful, wonderful view. So I don't think we'll go nowhere, and we'll wait for little Hosanna to come this way. He has not moved. Brian, you might be able to see him. Well, no, let's stay. Maybe let's stay on her. It'll be interesting to see if she. I think she's going to follow Mum now. Isn't that awesome? This is fantastic, everyone. This really is so special to see. There, she's kind of almost hoisting it into a tree there. See that? Just learning how to do it. Something in her, in the dim recesses of her genetic memory, is telling her to pick it up onto the tree and hang it there. something that in the dim recesses of Shadow's genetic memory is seriously lacking. Shadow, of course, Kurhula's first daughter, who doesn't hoist her kills much. Oh, this is too spectacular. This is watching a little leopard, everybody, turning into a semi-independent. This is all instinct. Mother has never taught her to do this. She's watched her mother do it, of course. But I think it's 99% instinct. Right, now Ruth, you're wondering, you say it's a little bit difficult to judge her size from the screen. Yes, it is. Ruth, she's about the size, I would say, if you imagine a sort of, say, a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, can you imagine that kind of a dog? She's about that size now. I'd say she's probably in the region of, she's lighter than that, but she's about that tall. So she's about 1.5 feet tall now. And she's very slight, you can see. Here comes the little male. Here he comes. You see him there, Brian? He's just sneaking through. He's actually bigger than her, you know. Ruth, you were asking about the size, and I said they're roughly still the same size. He's getting a lot more solid than she is. Here he comes. Look at him stalking through here. Yeah, he's definitely bigger, wouldn't you say, Brian?
Yeah.
He's actually substantially bigger. We'll hopefully see them next to each other. I'd say he's 1.5 times her size. Much more solid. I'd put him, if I was going to guess, everyone, I'd say he was probably 18 to 20 kilograms. That's almost 44 pounds. Let's call him 38 pounds. Maybe I'm slightly overestimating his size. He's a big fella. He does, his father's not small, of course. Tingana, we think. No, he's not sure what's going on. He's been so fast asleep for so long. He's in that kind of teenage haze of afternoon sleep. Doesn't know where his sister is. Can smell some sort of a meal in the offing. Now he can smell where she's put the kill. See, he smelt that, which is confusing him deeply. Now, Ruth, I don't know if you can tell from where he's standing now. When his sister was standing there, you could see that he was much smaller than this. At least she was much smaller. Yeah, he's smelling bits of impala there. He can see her, I'm sure, but I suppose he probably can't see that she has a piece of meat for him to eat if he wants it. Oh, this is wonderful. Hey, what a privilege to spend this amount of time with this number of spectacular little cats. He's a bit confused. Where's Mum? Where's the meal? I'm sure we had supper organised. I smell it here, but I can't find it. I really hope he goes towards her. No, you can definitely see her eating. I can see her eating. I want to see them next to each other, standing up. I think the size difference is going to be astounding. But he's too lazy. Right, let's head across while we wait and see what happens here. Taylor is still with the lions. She too has not had to leave that sighting. Let's go and see what's going on with that poor, poor buffalo. You may think that the evil Cumbritum calinum is back, but actually, I'm a lion. There are the leopards. I'm going to take this off as the wind blows, because it might blow off my head onto the leopard. And as I said, as the sun goes, so the wind or the air cools enough for there to be this sort of tremendous flow of air. And I think perhaps the beginnings of the fateful front that will bring us some rain, or not. Oh, it's very windy, Brian.
Very windy.
Brian, there's also a spider hunting wasp there. Can you see it? It was sitting briefly. It's gone now. Sorry, let's go back to the leopards. Now, what we have there is Hosanna. Unless I'm very much mistaken. His mother brought him a leg to eat, because he was too lazy to go and get it himself. She brought it all the way across here. As he came down, she cleaned him slightly, and then she left it there for him to eat, and she's gone off to lie in the sand just sort of in front of us. And Shongile is still eating her entire fetus. But wasn't that nice of Mum to go and get him something to eat? It really is. Again, I'm struck by the necessity to anthropomorphize this and say that she was purposely going to fetch her son something to eat. It was something she clearly saw that he hadn't eaten, and that Shongile was eating very pleasantly. She came across, bought this little snack. She called him. Oh, Brian, there's an elephant. There's an elephant coming right through here. Now, this is cool. That elephant, because of the wind, may well bypass this area completely without realizing who's there. Kurhula hasn't looked up. He's walking straight towards Kurhula now. Can smell something's up, I think. There, Kurhula's seen, as you can see. The cubs haven't moved at all. The wind is howling. The atmosphere has changed completely from one of complete peace to this very eerie kind of atmosphere. The elephant's turned off now. Definitely knows we're here. Whether it knows the leopards are here or not, I don't know. Hosanna has just seen him. He's watching carefully, but he's totally unconcerned, chewing on his meal. I think this is just a young bull. I think we saw this young bull yesterday. Isn't this amazing? This is why this is just the best possible job in all the world. You don't know what's going to happen. It's the safari cliche that we all use. You never know what's going to be around the next corner. Well, you really don't. Or in this case, around the next strychnos bush. Yes, eat all the strychnos. It's nasty stuff. Look at the wind blowing there. See the clouds starting to move a bit quicker. They're very high up though. Just wonderful stuff. Leopards have not moved. Kurhula is completely relaxed. She hasn't even turned around to face the elephant. She knows that he doesn't mean them any harm. There she is. You can just see her ears sticking out there. And then to the right of us, little Hosanna. And to the right of him, his sister with her impala youngster. Now, I am going to decide, I think that we're going to leave the sighting, everybody. It's just getting a little windy. and as the sun starts to go down, I don't really want there to be a situation where the animals can't hear because we're in the way. Here's the little boy going to see his mum now, or just to sit in front of us. Oh, not for a long time. Cat, you're in Tampa and you want to know when he'll get his dewlap. A dewlap, everybody, is the flap of skin that grows underneath the chin of leopards. Some people have a dewlap as well. I've met people with dewlaps, haven't you, Brian?
Yeah, I have.
Yes, yes. But his will only come probably when he's 6 or 7. So we saw Shivam Balani the other day, and he doesn't have a dewlap yet, and he's 6 years old. So it'll take a little while. I mean, Shivam Balani's father I never met, so I don't know if he had one or not. But this chap's father definitely has a dewlap, but it'll only come sort of, yeah, maybe 7 or 8. Isn't that wonderful? He's going off to share his meal with his mum. No, not quite. Just wants to be near her as the wind blows. He's watching the elephant now. There's a whole impala there, chum. You can go and eat much more than that rather scrawny piece of impala. I'll try and get a picture of that. That is slightly ridiculous, isn't it? Right, we'll let him move quickly. Let's see if he doesn't go maybe past his sister. But then I think we'll head out. Well, now this is an interesting one. I'm surprised it's A, taken this long for the question to come through, and B, that I haven't even thought about discussing it. You say, Benjamin, in Portland, you're wondering about mange in leopards and whether they get mange. I imagine they must be able to, but you know why I think I haven't even thought of it, Benjamin, is because the thought of these chaps getting mange is so horrific to me, which tells you obviously where my affections lie. But I haven't even thought about it. So, look, it's possible, I guess. So far, they seem to be okay. All right, everyone, we're going to pull out of here. It's getting dark, it's getting windy, and I want them to have complete... what do I want to say? I want them to have complete sort of ears and eyes and nose around where they are. They're near a kill, and so they are potentially vulnerable. So we're going to pull out now. Okay, in the meantime, Taylor is still with the lions, so let's head across to them and find out if they've killed that buffalo.